Have you thought about growing your wealth but don't know how to start? Talk to Invest by Metricon. They make property investing easy. So for all your tomorrows, build your financial future today. Invest by Metricon. Build wealth. Build today.
This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Okay, how you going? Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show. Here to have a discussion today with someone based up in unlockdown Queensland, a property investor who has turned his investment journey into a career. So these are the sort of discussions we like to have, how people are using the great work they've done in creating wealth through property and then finding a passion by doing it. No doubt this is very much the story for Matt Schramer. He is the director of the Schramer Group. You might know his name. I used to play footy for a pretty average team called the Gold Coast Titans back in the day. But mate, my notes here, Matt, said that you're an NRL footy star. Were you a star, were you?
Oh, mate, I don't know who's giving you that.
I'm right on the front foot giving you a hard time here. But.
Mate, I don't know who's giving you that, mate. I'd say just a battler.
Just a battler, just a bloke trying to...
Mate, just trying to make a living, mate. Doing my best.
Well, making a living now, you seem to be doing pretty well, mate. So you're a buyer's agent. Your business is a buyer's agency operating out of the Gold Coast and with no restrictions. You're not locked up. How are you finding the world at the moment, mate? Is it treating you pretty well?
Mate, I'm extremely grateful in saying this. I'm assuming, Phil, you'd probably have listeners all over Australia and whatnot. Here in Southeast Queensland, very fortunate. You know, we were complaining a few weeks ago when there was a 3-day lockdown. Everyone was obviously complaining around that. So, you know, we're really lucky up here on the Gold Coast. You know, we're very lucky with obviously the climate and whatnot. So, extremely lucky.
It's pretty good. So are you born and bred sort of Queenslander?
I was born in Brisbane in a little suburb called Forest Lake. In between, I was born in, it was called Inala. Anyone who knows Inala from Brisbane, it's sort of the ghetto, you know. It was, I loved it growing up. And then we obviously moved to Forest Lake, which is the next suburb. Mum and dad were, they were just battlers as well. So my dad's from Poland. He was an immigrant and, he was a prisoner of war. He grew up around that time. So he had a pretty tough upbringing. My mum's from the Philippines as well, just a sort of from the provinces and whatnot. So my dad was a garbage truck collector. My mum was a hotel cleaner. So definitely hard workers, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think and that's a great sort of Aussie story, right? Good Aussie working class story. And, you know, myself, I'm a product of a similar background, and it sort of instills you a certain set of work ethics, right? That sort of helps you out later on in life. And I wouldn't swap my upbringing for the world in terms of just the view it gives you on how do you go about sort of getting stuff done and taking control and being the master of your own domain. So obviously a lot of people know you from your days playing footy. I want to chat to you about being a property investor and also a buyer's agent, but I guess part of the story is that footy story, playing high level rugby league for the Gold Coast Titans sort of launched you into, you know, no doubt knocking around with a whole bunch of different people and seeing a whole bunch of people probably blow their dough. Footy players aren't well known for saving their money, mate. When you were playing footy, did you start investing in property at that point in time? Can you give me some sense for that journey and the reason why you started putting your money into property?
Yeah, mate, good question. And look, it's one of those things when you are playing footy, it's you're in, I call it like a bubble. You're definitely in a bubble. It's your life. Your weeks are dictated on how you performed that weekend. You know, so and then you can't really escape it kind of thing. It's hard to escape. You know, you see it on the news and articles and social media and whatnot. So you're definitely in a bubble. It was obviously a great career and I absolutely loved it, but it's very demanding, high pressure environment as well. And a lot of people, as you know, you come straight out of school, straight in a professional environment. So in terms of when you relate it to your question around like property and whatnot, mate, to be honest, there was some of the older boys, I used to pick their brains on property. Like my family, obviously, they didn't have much growing up and obviously they worked hard and they were the old, you know, you just buy the one property and that's it kind of thing. So I had no real mentors or people in my life. So to be honest, I property knowledge from, I guess, YouTube and magazines and just talking to some of the older guys who have done some stuff with money. Because there's two examples. There's people who do stuff with their money proactively in professional sport, and there's people who go the other way as well and end up with nothing once they're done. So unfortunately, the latter is probably more common, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sort of connected back in with the footy community and trying to, mentor some of these younger players coming through, just give them some sense for money? Because there's always this discussion, whether it's footy or any other sport, where, it's a responsibility of the club to really instill those habits and behaviours in their players to think about the future. You can't play footy forever. You can't do this forever. You can't do this forever. But it's such a good time to actually get some money together and at that formative period where you're making a few bucks to plan for the future. Do you think that's changed? Have things changed that much since you were playing the game?
A little bit. I believe so. I think the NRL is doing definitely some more mentoring and workshops and those sorts of things, putting things in place. But at the end of the day, it obviously takes action as well. And I think until the realization, my big realization was obviously I unfortunately retired through injury. So I had no choice but to have a look at where I was at. Whereas, when you're young, you're just worried around making the 17 for that week. You know what I mean? Let alone worrying around your money and whatnot. So it's definitely getting better. I think the shift is changing a little bit. But knowing what I know now that I'm out of the NRL, it's sort of like I could have definitely done a lot more. Like I'm first to admit, like I could have leveraged what I had a lot more, for sure.
Yeah, but every single property investor I know says exactly the same thing. I say the same thing. I say, I wish I did a lot more when I was earlier on in my property journey. And there's all the reasons why, you're traveling, you're out in the piss, you're just doing what you do when you're that age, right? Which is a good thing. I think it's part of the process to become a better property investor. You got to get that stuff done. But, it's really about sort of taking stock and actually understanding where opportunities lie. So you bought your first property while you're still playing footy and, not knowing what the future looked like in terms of injury and stuff. Can you tell me about that first purchase?
Yeah, for sure. So just I re-signed a contract, and that's the thing with the NRL as well. It's very performance-based, so you're playing for contracts. You're playing to put food on the table kind of thing. And yes, it can be financially rewarding if you're in that top percent, so to speak, but it can also be gone in a second as well. So I had a few really good years when I first debuted when I was in my teens, and then early 20s, had some good back-to-back years and re-signed a contract. And then essentially I always wanted to buy, my first property. So obviously living on the Gold Coast, I wanted that Gold Coast lifestyle. So I always used to manifest coming from Forest Lake in Brisbane. I used to actually drive down. I used to live in Brisbane and drive down to training back and forwards for a few years. And I remember I used to sit at the beach down in a suburb called Palm Beach on the Gold Coast. And before I used to go to training down there, and I used to look at the kids who they'd walk to the beach, they had no shoes on, they'd be able to walk to the beach. So I don't know, I just love the surf and the sand and all that sort of stuff and the sun. So for me, I had this big thing, I own a place near the beach that I could walk without any shoes on. It sounds weird, but that's what I wanted so badly. And so the first place I got was a Palm Beach house, within walking distance to the beach. So definitely a different path. I had no inkling of being an investor at all. I was more so an NRL player who wanted to live near the beach, and that's what it was. I was sort of like, okay, this is going to be my forever home kind of thing, and that way, yeah.
So you thought you'd buy your forever home at 20 something years old?
Yeah, it's wild, eh? Now you think about it. Like, I was a single guy, and I'm looking at end up getting a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and you think, oh yeah, I'll stay in that forever. But things change, and I'll hopefully have a family one day and all those things. But at the time, you sort of think, yeah, I'm going to buy my forever home and this and that. So, but in saying that property's done really well, and the main thing is it serves its purpose in my life. I absolutely love where I live, and I wake up each day really grateful as well.
You still live in that same place?
I do. Yeah.
You do? Okay. So it is still your forever home, right?
Well, at the moment, yeah. So I got that one back in 2014. Got that one in Palm Beach.
It is a property show. What'd you pay for it, mate?
I got that one for $600K.
Okay. All right.
Flat, yeah. And looking back, I could have got it.
You reckon you get it cheaper if you did it again?
Oh, Phil, honestly, and that's the thing. Again, hindsight, isn't it? You don't know what you don't know. So I was very green with property back then. I was only 20. I think I was 22 at the time, and as I said, I had no no one even to lean on with property. So, But yeah, in saying that, you know, I paid 600 and back in 2014 and yeah, Gold Coast, along with a lot of the coastal markets have done really well in Australia.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good sort of stepping stone, no doubt, whether or not you've refinanced that to sort of get into other properties. What did you do? Did you rent out a couple of rooms to some of the boys and help pay the mortgage? Were the banks happy to lend you money, NRL players? Normally they go, well, you know, how good is this guy and how's he performing at the moment? And it's only one broken leg away from not being able to pay his home loan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. They look at it more so in a sense of longevity of the contract, you know? So if it's, I remember I signed, I think it was a 2-year deal. So at the start of the 2-year deal, it sort of worked in well.
Yeah, that's cool. So first property. So give me some sense for your portfolio now, Matt. How many properties have you got?
There's 5 in there at the moment, including that one.
That one there. So the journey then from that first purchase into 4 more, principal place of residence, then turns into 4 investment properties. Let's get into that. We'll go to a break beforehand. Just stay with us, back in a moment.
In the property investment industry, there's countless stories of the one that got away. And it's always the same reason. To pay the deposit, they needed the settlement from another property to come through, and they waited. Realty Assist Australia knows that when you find the one, waiting isn't an option. That's why they have a same-day settlement fund advance service. There's no credit check, no application fees, just a single one-off fee to advance your equity. Visit realtyassist.com.au/settlements now.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show, with Matt Schramer from the Schramer Group. He's director there, buyers agents up on the Gold Coast, having a chat through his investment journey, sort of transitioning out of life as an athlete, making his money by performing on weekend, into now making his money by finding people buyers' houses. Do you reckon footy players make good buyers agents, Matt?
Mate,
obviously you've got to say some do, yeah, but
yes, some do. I tell you one thing, Bill, the discipline aspect, yes, and I think professional sport gives you that. I guess I believe any athlete who makes it at a higher level has discipline, and you have to have discipline to succeed in any field of life. I agree. So I wouldn't say specifically to buyer's agent, but I'd say in terms of business and stuff like that, I've seen some of my teammates do really well in the field of brokers or real estate agents, or some of them have even launched their own businesses in whatever field. I feel, yeah, if you've got that background in sport, it definitely, you've got that discipline, I guess.
And so talk me through your purchase of your first property, which is you still live in, which is cool, into your second property. When did that happen as part of the journey? Was it post-football?
It was right at the back end. So I had a few injuries throughout my career. It was weird how it kind of happened. I believe in, like, everything happens for a reason. I was coming off the back of, I think it was my 8th operation, so to speak. And I was in a waiting room at Burleigh X-ray clinic, and they had the old property magazines. Remember the old API might have been? One of those ones. Yeah. So I was just reading that, like the X-ray waiting room, because there's nothing else to read. And that's what sparked the whole investment side of things. So that sort of sparked a bit of an interest. And then I went home and got on YouTube and did all that stuff and kept the magazine as well. And it really sparked an interest, which led me to, just researching and learning more around actually not living in a property, actually investing in it like a commodity.
Yeah. And you mentioned beforehand, I guess your upbringing was you buy one house and that's it, right? So, and I grew up in a very similar situation where the idea of investing in property was like, well, why would you do that? It's crazy. You just pay your home down and then that's it, right? That transition to expand your knowledge base was influenced by, originated from magazines, but then you went, hey, I better get educated on this pathway. How'd you go sort of about embracing ideas like negative gearing and, extracting equity and all that sort of stuff? For a lot of people, it's like a light bulb moment.
It is. Yeah, it is. I guess the light bulb for me was when you pull back the costs and you look at the entry costs, it's actually with the rent return as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not that scary. So I think that's what did it for me, is sort of looking into it, doing all my figures and numbers, etc., and working it that way.
So, you got your sort of baseline education. You want to take action buying your first investment property, Matt. What did you buy? Where did you buy it? How much was it?
Same thing. I was in the Southern Gold Coast. I was like, okay, learnt about all the investing stuff. And when you're younger, you feel comfortable in your own backyard. You hear so many investors. And look, I don't see it as a wrong move, but looking back, I probably should have expanded my mindset a bit more and be open to investing elsewhere. But obviously being young and not knowing too much, I was like, look, I know Gold Coast, love it. I want to touch and feel it. So first investment was in Palm Beach, suburb in the Southern Gold Coast. And that was a little boutique unit, block of, I think there's 7 in there. It's on a corner block, brick. It was ugly as, needs a bit of work. But the block itself, you can see the ocean from it. So what I learned was land is where it's at. So I wanted to get something that was scarce, had a dual street frontage with a corner, and also low density. I wanted as much ownership of that block of land as possible is what I sort of learnt around if I was to buy a unit.
Yeah, and no doubt you still got the property now, still in the portfolio?
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon it's probably done all right. Those ugly ducklings are the ones that generally do well at you. And no doubt you got it up in the Gold Coast, these 200, 300, 400 apartments in one building, and they're all the same, and they're expensive to hold, and there's always problems with it, and you got to pay concierge fees and all that. So how much did you pay for that unit? So,
mate, that was a funny one. I missed out on one of the units above, so it's just a 2-level walk up. One was online upstairs for $320K. I missed out on it, and I just started hustling the other owners, and then the little old lady underneath. We did an off-market deal with no agent involved, which was awesome. So I got that one for $310K back in 2015. And during COVID last year, I actually did a quick little reno on it, paint, carpet, fans, and now it's getting $480 per week rent.
Okay. What sort of value are you get on it?
Probably $5 to $525K.
Okay.
Resale. Yeah. So it's done well. Yeah. And the block itself, I've been keeping an eye on what all the blocks are going for. So that one's more, I'm never going to sell that until it falls over or a developer comes knocking on the door, because the zoning's high density there.
Which they will do at some point, no doubt. It's 7 owners is a lot easier than 200 owners to have something. That's good. So you would just finish up football then. So there's a period of time where you went, I can't play football anymore, but you've maintained sort of operating in and investing in property. How did all of that work, mate?
Yes. Well, it's funny, Phil. My next property wasn't until 2018, because I soon realised property is a game of finance. And, 2016, I retired. Basically didn't know what I was doing. I was doing some odd jobs, contractor work here and there. And I had obviously equity. I had cash ready to go again. And I just could not get a loan. I didn't understand it, So, then I understood, you obviously need to service the loan and how banks operate. Literally, I was tapped out for the next sort of 3 to 4 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, just trying to find a career as well. That was another thing. You come from sport. I basically played NRL straight out of high school, so it's sort of like the resume is empty. So it's hard to get a job as well. So that's one thing you'll chat to a lot of athletes around is sort of finding where you go in life as well.
And that's why, no doubt they say you got to be using your time when times are good, being an athlete, thinking about what the future looks like. And one thing you are guaranteed is that your professional sporting career will end at time. You just never know when it's going to happen, right? And you see a lot of athletes go into really impressive jobs. But you've jumped around a bit. You're probably just doing stuff for mates and mates' dads and stuff, needed sort of odd job type work and labouring and all that sort of stuff. There must have been a period of time where you're just going, this sucks. This is not
mate. Look, it was weird. I'm always someone who stays busy and whatnot. But so on my last year in the NRL in 2016, just before retirement, I did my ACL in round 2. So I knew internally that was it. I knew my contract was up as well. So it was either I go to England and continue to pursue a footy career and leave the Gold Coast. I'm all settled in my Palm Beach property. I love it near the beach and whatnot. Or I go to England and pursue being an NRL a Super League athlete, they call it over there. And I just thought, there's more to life. It's going to come to an end one day. So unfortunately, the injuries came at a hard time because obviously I felt I had a lot more to give as an athlete. Being 26, retiring from professional sports pretty young, but I had a doctor's advice to give it up. And, after 9 surgeries, I thought it's probably the smartest move. So thankfully, when you look at the perspective of it, getting injured in round 2 allowed me 22 rounds to figure out what I want to do post footy. So no one really knew I was going to pull the pin at the end of the year, but inside my head, I started planning. So I actually did my real estate license while I was still employed by the Titans. So literally as soon as I retired, I did a few odd jobs. As you said, I did some solar on a roof and helped someone, did some labouring and whatnot. And then basically I jumped straight into actually real estate sales, like a sales agent on the Gold Coast, on the southern Gold Coast. And used my license for that and had no experience. I literally cold called one of the agencies, said, hey, just finished professional sport. I want to have a crack at being a sales agent. And that was my first real job, I guess. Yeah.
How'd you go as a sales agent? Who'd you work for?
A company called McGrath Estate Agents.
Yeah.
So good. I just liked the aesthetics of their brand and what they were doing. And they had a good, I guess, traction down here on the Gold Coast. So, mate, I went all right. Yeah. It's anyone who's thinking of being everyone always wants to think, I want to be a sales agent. I'm telling you, give it a crack because you'll develop so much life skills. It's not funny in terms of dealing with people, resilience, being able to prospect, know how to find leads from nothing, and also how to close, learning around negotiation and just overall skills and resilience. I find that's the biggest thing I learned is, you're hunting for listings and you're just getting no after no after no, but you got to keep going.
Well, mate, so real estate's a tough master, and anyone that tells you otherwise is kidding themselves.
It is a slog. But one of the best choices I made in life. It wasn't for me. I stayed in it for around 14 months and I was at the point where I was ready to bring on a PA because I was getting some success and a heap of listings coming on. And then I sort of thought, this wasn't for me. To be a high performer in that top 1% as a real estate sales agent, it required a lot more that I didn't really find interest in. So I didn't like the sales side of it. So, I literally gave all my listings away and had no job. I just knew it wasn't for me and backed myself. I'll find the next path. So that hence why I couldn't buy again, because, I was on commission only there and I quit that job. So I was going through a bit of that post-career journey where I was just trying to find myself, I guess.
Yeah. So have you found yourself now? Or are you still on the pathway?
I'm that wise man sitting at the beach now.
So mate, obviously a gap between hanging up your footy boots and then your real estate sales boots to kicking off business Sharma Group. What was the gap period there? What sort of the bit of soul searching, no doubt, to work out, what really your passion was? And they always say you got to make passion your paycheck, right?
Yeah. As Tommy Panos always say that one. Yeah. Mates, it was a really cool time. Like I literally was jumping into all different sorts of jobs. I was managing like a social touch football academy on the Gold Coast. And then I was actually doing a bit of sales work for another company working. And that taught me a little bit around the broke. Every job I did has led me to where I am now. And this is why I feel I'm where I'm meant to be. But to give you perspective, I was doing working with like a brokerage company. So I learnt the game of finance. I did a little bit of, as I said, managing like social events. So I learnt around events coordination and just managing things and managing people. And then probably my favorite job, the Titans, I cold called the Titans and said, hey, I want to do some coaching. I notice a lot of your younger kids are getting plucked by Broncos up the road and whatnot. I'm really passionate around keeping the kids because I'm a local junior, from Brizzy, and I wanted to stay local. So, that was my most stable job for probably a year and a half, 2 years. And that was academy coordinator. So I looked after all the kids basically from 12 to 18 coming through the ranks at the Gold Coast Titans. So some of the ones who are plucking through now came through our system that we developed there. And that job was unreal in terms of obviously fulfillment because I love kids and I love sport, but also around leading and coaching and being able to empower others and whatnot. So I absolutely love that job for sure.
Yeah, and it's only when you really arrive at a destination and I think Steve Jobs has said it, you can actually go back and join all the dots that actually got you to a point where you've got a particular set of skills or is taking you on a particular pathway or journey to arrive where you want to be. And no doubt that's you kicking off your business, which I want to have a chat about, Matt. We'll just get another break back in a moment.
The mark of financial success isn't about getting bigger, better, faster, or more. To Paul, success is freedom. Freedom to spend more time with his family, or giving back to his community, or just more time to go surfing. Paul Glossop, an award-winning property buyer and regular guest on the Smart Property Investment Podcast, has taken the lessons he's learned building a multi-million-dollar property portfolio and laid them out in his best-selling book, A Surfer's Guide to Property Investing. For a limited time, get your free copy of Paul's award-winning book and receive a roadmap for building both lifestyle and wealth through property investing. Grab your free copy today at purepropertyinvestment.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show with Matt Sharma, director of the Sharma Group. How long have you been going for now, Matt?
Mate, we just ticked into 12 months.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about the first day of setting up this company. What did you do? What was the first thing that you did on that first day? Probably went to get a coffee and sit and go, what have I done here?
You know what? It was a funny story, Phil. It was during COVID, actually, how this all came about. So obviously I've been in the real estate industry since I was basically 22. I bought my first one pretty young and then was in the sales side of things for a while. But in terms of this side of things, obviously having that job coaching sport, when COVID happened, obviously, we didn't have any coaching to do because obviously, So in that time, I sort of thought, okay, I can sit on my ass and do nothing or do something about it. So I used that time to, basically research how to start a company and put some feelers in place, spoke to my accountant on what could happen, and it sort of just progressed from there, I guess. So, pretty much during COVID, it sort of formed, and then I took the leap around September.
Yeah, and who was your first client, first buyer's agent's client?
Mate, the first few were just network, through footy or through my past sales experience. Yeah, just people in that network.
So tell me about the business. Just concentrating on the Gold Coast, or you're going further afield? Any sort of particular specialisation, or where are you finding most of your clients from at the moment?
Mainly interstate, to be honest. So obviously you get a lot of BAs on I always listen to this podcast, but we're very I'm just a suburb specific. So I only really, a lot of our clients, I just basically help people relocate to the Gold Coast more so. So a lot of owner occupiers, so to speak. Obviously in my personal life, I love investment and that's my bread and butter that I love, but I separate that from my work. I focus on helping owner ocs get up here to the Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, predominantly most of our clients, also Brisbane and local. And then obviously investors who are looking for more blue chip assets like unit blocks, beachside, dev sites, all that sort of stuff. So more in our core areas are basically all the blue chip sort of beachside suburbs on the Gold Coast. Which
isn't a bad place to focus and operate, and specific geographic expertise pays off in droves for people who are looking. And I guess the good thing is that Gold Coast is like a destination place. It's not like a property investor goes, I want to invest in property, and there might be 100 different places to invest. Whereas a lot of people say, I want to get into the Gold Coast market, but there is a lot of different markets inside of the Gold Coast market. And it's one of those markets of trade which fluctuates. It's sometimes feast and famine. And I hear it's going pretty well at the moment. Well, give me some sense for Gold Coast. Where do you like at the moment? What sort of stuff are you buying, and where is the real value at the moment? Yeah, I guess it's all driven by lifestyle. That's what I'm noticing. A lot of the clients we help, it's driven by a lifestyle. So COVID really put a pause on a lot of people's lives where they can now work from home or work over Zoom, and they sort of want to get away from the hustle and bustle, and they want to live in, beautiful sunny Queensland. Tom Panos calls that COVID clarity. COVID clarity is what he's calling it, but I'll steal that from him. Yeah.
I like that.
COVID clarity. You watch, I bet you when you chat to the next person from Sydney saying, you go, oh, that sounds like you got some real COVID clarity there.
COVID.
You know?
Mate, I love that. I'm going to use that. But you're right. It is a bit of COVID clarity. I mean, we are really blessed up here. It's not as saturated in terms of density population-wise, but very untouched in terms of the beaches, locations. Phil, I reckon there's four key markets. There's the hinterland vibe. A lot of people are loving that. The hinterland aspect, hinterland up here, you're still 15, 20 minutes away from the sand, which is crazy. So you can get acreage property only 15, 20 minutes away. Hinterland, they're suburban, a lot of really good schools now. So, your 400, 600 square blocks, 4-bed, 2-bath in really nice parks, lakes, more central suburbs. And then you got your canal fronts / lake fronts, really popular. A lot of different aspects there. Certain suburbs cater to those where people want to live that lifestyle where they might have a boat or jet ski and that sort of stuff. And then obviously your beachfront products where location, walking distance to the sand or northeasterly aspect is important. So I find they're the four, different types of markets here on the Gold Coast. And all of them, different price points, different dwelling types, like they're completely different, all four of them.
What are you topping out sort of on the canal front type stuff? There's a big, to actually get on the water, it's probably a big spread, right?
It is. Yeah. So for most of the suburbs we deal with, say sort of your central to southern Gold Coast. So your Broady waters, Mermaid waters, canal fronts now, knockdowns. I'll give you off land value. So knockdowns on probably 600 square, you're probably looking at 156 for a complete knock, like for land. And some of the new builds, like there was a recent one in the suburb of Palm Beach, a duplex. So someone's cut it in half, put 2 nice villas on it. They went for 2.5 brand new. So and it's only a small block. So yeah, for people from south, that it's perceived as fairly good value.
That's pretty cheap. It's just like, yeah. And you get a lot of people in Brisbane with sort of second residences down in Gold Coast. They do the weekends down there.
Plenty. Brisbane, got a few clients at the moment from Melbourne and Sydney, just looking for holiday homes in the suburbs of like Currumbins and just real lifestyle, So obviously there's a lot of different units and different things like that where, there's maybe like a dual living setup, 2 kitchens, 2 bars. So extended family can holiday on the Gold Coast as well.
They're talking about moving the border a little bit south in some of those areas, right? Redrawing a line. What do you reckon about that? You might be able to get yourself some better footy there.
Mate, I really feel for the Tweed Shire. Hey, like they had the hard lockdown, but the Gold Coast is so people from Tweed at work in the Gold Coast. It's pretty much as one. So they should extend it a little further south where it's less isolated, closer to Byron, somewhere down there maybe. But I'm not the boss of that. But I do feel for the people in the Tweed.
Yeah, it's outside of our pay grade drawing. But maybe not. Maybe I can start lobbying to get the borders changed. See how significant this podcast is. But hey, Matt, look, I've really enjoyed the chat, mate. That's really good to connect and have a bit of a yarn and sort of see your journey as a property investor. Hopefully you're chatting with some of your old teammates who are still playing or just leaving, sort of giving them good counsel, saying start investing. Any 20-year-old on a new contract, start investing in property straight away would be my recommendation. Yeah, mate, for sure. And as every investor sort of says, I guess, best time to buy was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. But mate, look, keep connected. Best of luck with the new business. I've checked you out online and go and check it out. Just Google the Sharma Group. Some good vids there about what you're up to and how you're going about doing it, mate. But best of luck with the new venture. No, thanks, mate. Really appreciate your time, Phil, and keep up the great work. This has been one of my favourite podcast, yours and the Property Couch. I've got to give a shout out to the boys, the two of them. Mate, I actually found you via them. You were on their show. So, years ago. Ben and Bryce are good operators, and we do very different things. Those guys live inside of property. I'm a property investor, but I don't really know what I do for a living. I talk to people. It's a good balance. I think the two are really good balance, and I think you do really well in relation to just the general stories of people. I feel nice that adds a lot of value. Yeah, cool. Nice one. That's Matt Sharma from Sharma Group. Go and check them out. I hope you enjoy that, everyone. Remember, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Find us at social media, Smart Property HQ. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
In the property investment industry, there's countless stories of the one that got away. And it's always the same reason. To pay the deposit, they needed the settlement from another property to come through, and they waited. Realty Assist Australia knows that when you find the one, waiting isn't an option. That's why they have a same-day settlement fund advance service. There's no credit check, no application fees, just a single one-off fee to advance your equity. Visit realtyassist.com.au/settlements now.